job. And I want to be very clear. A home, a school, a hospital that hosts terrorists is not a home, is not a school, and is not a hospital. It's a terror base. And as such, if they're shooting rockets at us from there, we will retaliate back.
Now to Rafat Alari, who is a Palestinian writer and educator and resident of Gaza City. Welcome to you. Tell us what's happening where you are.
What's happening is that an Israeli official is inciting genocide against Palestinian natives in the Gaza Strip, and the BBC is feeding him thoughts, perhaps suggesting taking control over the Gaza Strip. This is what's going on. The Western mainstream media is being complicit, whitewashing Israeli crimes.
I think you'll find that there were questions, quite legitimate questions, to be asked of a former Israeli Prime Minister. I'd love to know what's happening, though, where you are, sir.
The war criminal before me was suggesting bombing schools and homes and hospitals, and you said not a word to push back against that. Anyway,
he was talking about if there's Hamas militants in those buildings, I think, for clarification.
This preemptive attack by Palestinian resistance is legitimate and moral. This is exactly like the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. This is the Gaza Ghetto Uprising against 100 years of European and Zionist colonialism and occupation. Why do Palestinians have to pay the price for European racism and anti-Semitism and Nazism? We have been under occupation for over 75 years. The situation is extremely difficult in Gaza currently. We talk about more than 200 Palestinians killed, homes bombed, residential buildings bombed, ambulances bombed. We talk about more than 1,500 injured. This comes in a context of destruction and annihilation against Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank, in Jenin, in Hebron, in Nablus, in Jerusalem, against Muslims and Christians in occupied Jerusalem. So what's going on is that Palestinians expectedly reacted preemptively to Israeli terror, Israeli occupation. In March 2023, Israel killed several Palestinian leaders and said they were planning an attack against Israel. Well, Israel exists, the Israeli occupation exists, and the Palestinians have every right to react by all means possible, by all means necessary. And this is not easy for Palestinians. I want to use Hamlet's proverbial sea of troubles. We know Israel is going to kill us anyway. We are starving, we are being besieged, we are being dispossessed, we are being displaced. We know all of these. Israel is going to kill us anyway. Israel wants us kneeling, and Israel chooses to kill us when it wants to kill us. So why not fight back and die in dignity? This is the lesson that Israel and the West have to understand, that you can't oppress occupied people for about 100 years and not expect people to react to defend their very existence.
How much support does Hamas have there?
This is not about Hamas. If you frame this as Hamas, this is about 12 million Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem.
It's not me framing this as Hamas. Hamas have launched these attacks on Israel.
Of course, yeah, and the attacks against military bases. Israel is using its third-class Jews in Kibbutzim near Gaza as human shields, and you have seen the videos, and you didn't also push back against that. Most of the captives were soldiers, some of them taken literally from inside their tanks. And some of them were kept safe because Palestinians wanted them to be safe, because Palestinians wanted the 5,000 Palestinians imprisoned, political prisoners in Israel, to be released in exchange. But the support here is popular, even from factions belonging to Fatah, Islamic Jihad, leftist factions. They participated in these preemptive, legitimate, and moral attacks against Israeli military posts, against Israeli tanks. You've seen the tanks, you've seen the Israeli military, and even the civilians, they were treated honorably, they were respected. There were videos of Palestinian freedom fighters telling those Israeli civilians that we're not going to kill you, although these are settlers living in populated areas. One of these Israeli villages, so-called villages, has land that belongs to my grandmother. She always would point and tell me that if we free Palestine, we will be rich. And I tell my grandmother, may God rest her soul now, that some of your neighbor's grandmother liberated these lands, maybe momentarily, but this is how the dream comes true in the future. Palestinians will keep fighting back. The Zionists, aided and abetted by the West, by Europe, by the United Kingdom, that presented Palestine on a silver platter to the Zionist movement 100 years. We will continue despite all genocidal acts by Israel. We will fight back, and if we die fighting.